Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, join me as we gather together to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, a little bit of television, a few other good things here and there. And joining us here on this Friday is my friend and yours. It's Erin Cummings, everybody. Erin, how you doing?
Hello. You know what? I'm a little sad this morning, John.
Yeah, because I know why.
Why?
Because Robert's not here?
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. You know, somebody actually commented yesterday on either the thread or one of the comments and said, is it just me or does Aaron kind of have like a Robert Meyer Burnett quality?
He rubs off on you, doesn't he?
Yes. And I said, I take that as high praise. I may not have the encyclopedic knowledge as Robert Meyer Burnett does, and don't always have his insight. However, I do respect him immensely, and I'm sad that he's not here. I want to share that news with him.
Yeah, he was supposed to be here today. Something came up for him last second, so he sends his regrets, but he'll be back here again on Monday. I had a good night last night.
You did?
An educational.
Tell me about it.
So here's the thing. I'm making this little documentary right now.
I wouldn't say a little documentary.
And, well, I mean, for now it is. But I decided I am not going to use Adobe Premiere to do the post-production, to do the editing on it. I just kind of grew frustrated with it a little bit.
And that's been what you usually use.
It's been what I switched from Final Cut to Premiere years ago. And I've always been very happy with it for short form stuff. But whenever I've tried to do long form stuff, I've had a lot of people telling me I should switch to this program called DaVinci Resolve.
Oh, okay.
Which has been kind of like an industry standard for color correction and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of a learning curve.
Sure.
So I went over to my buddy Cliff's last night, and Cliff, who was on the Best Movie, Worst Movie podcast with us last week, and he was giving me this deep dive tutorial. So I'm learning. I love learning. Learning is fun, and that's what we're going to do here today, guys. We're going to learn together. I'm going to learn things from you. You're going to learn things from us, and we do have a lot of things to talk about here today. We're going to talk about why do video game movies, in as good as Sonic is doing, why does good for video game movies absolutely pale in comparison to when a comic book movie does well, despite the fact that a lot more people play video games? We're going to talk about that a little bit. Westworld put out a new trailer that I am just kind of salivating over. We're going to talk about that. Tons of rumors swirling around about possibly Robin being in the Batman movie. We're going to talk about where those rumors are coming from and if there could be any validity to them. Also, Eli Roth is going to be directing a Borderlands video game adaptation, that and a few things more. But before we get to all that stuff, guys, let's go right off the top with this. Now, we've been talking a little bit in recent days about Witcher and Witcher Season 2. We talked about some new casting coming up and all that kind of stuff. Now, Witcher Season 2 is not going to air until 2021, but they have now officially kind of announced that they are in production. The show is now shooting. They are on set, they're doing it, and they've got a full year pretty much before this whole thing comes out. And it's coming out, and this excites me because of this. This is why this excites me. We all knew there was going to be a Witcher Season 2, right? But in a world where Netflix has successful shows that then all of a sudden get canceled out of nowhere, in a world where, there are movies that are greenlit, ready to go into production, and last minute get canceled, there has always been a little bit of a nagging doubt in the back of my head that Witcher Season 2 was actually going to happen. Now, it makes sense to do it. It's their most successful first season of a show ever. They're having a great time doing it, all that kind of stuff. So it makes sense to do it. But there's always just that one little piece because, again, we live in a world where Netflix will up and cancel a show for whatever reason. There was always a little part of my brain that was a little bit worried that some exec over at Netflix would go, you know what? This show's really too expensive to make. Let's pull the plug on it. So as I like to use my favorite word, Aaron, is tangibilization. Seeing that they're actually shooting it now makes it real to me and is very, very exciting. Now, I'm really curious because you haven't watched
I have not.
Witcher yet. So from an outsider's perspective, looking in, because I'm on the inside, I've watched this whole thing, but what's been your perception of the show as far as fan reaction and all that kind of stuff? And what do you think about them already moving and shooting Season 2 when it doesn't come out until at least 2021?
Well, to be honest, I'm not terribly surprised just because the response that I continue to hear has been all positive. The things that you're saying, the things that Chris is saying, and the things that I'm reading online, people seem to have a overall pretty positive response to it. Additionally, we're moving away from what I've read. I'm deep into pilot season right now, and there's not this year has the least amount of pilots since 2012, and obviously what that means to auditioning actors is less opportunities. And so I've been reading all these articles, and one of the reasons why there are less pilots being shot is because networks and streaming platforms are really giving shows a chance to breathe. I remember an interview with Christina Hendricks one time. I believe they were in season 3 of Mad Men, and she said our ratings for the first season of Mad Men were so low that had we been on any other network, we never would have gotten a season 2.
Wow.
But they let us breathe. I have unfortunately been on TV shows that were one TV show that was canceled after 2 episodes. I remember a friend of mine, his show got canceled after 2 episodes. I was like, oh God, that's got to sting. And then I just moved to New York. I started my year-long lease in July, and then in September, I got a text message from a friend, hey, bummer about your show. And I was like, what about my show? And she said, oh shit, Google it. And sure enough, we'd been canceled.
Was that Jersey legal
It was
drum?
made in Jersey. It was Jana
Jersey.
Montgomery, who I played her sister, and then she went on to star in Salem, which she was great in. Now she's in New Amsterdam. But anyway, I digress. The point being, a lot of these shows that used to be, if you didn't have immediate right out the gate, fans going crazy, advertisers throwing money, then you were canceled. They didn't even give you a chance. Now, networks and streaming platforms are realizing, hey, these shows can live on. Limitless is a great example on CBS. When it got canceled by CBS and it was then streamed on Netflix, it had an enormous worldwide following. And people were like, when's season 2? Well, there's not going to be a season 2. So now they're realizing, hey, if we give these shows a chance to breathe, give, as you and I were talking off screen, the audience a chance to understand this world and to really get into this world and to figure out the dynamics of the characters and the conflicts, then people are emotionally invested, and then they'll tune in for a season 2. And given what you were telling me before we started, I think I might have to start binging this.
Oh no, you seriously, I can't believe, has Tom watched it?
No.
You and Tom have to watch The Witcher.
We've been too busy watching Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Which is a very good excuse.
I had to eat Pinkberry last night just because of it. I haven't eaten Pinkberry in 2 years. I don't even like Pinkberry, and I'm like, Larry David really has me craving Pinkberry. But yes, I think that I might have to binge the Witcher this season,
absolutely
this weekend, and I'm looking forward to it. And you know what? I say good for them. I hate reading about any show that gets canceled, because not only does it mean sometimes that my favorite show is no longer going to be available, it means that a lot of people, not just actors, but a lot of crew people are out of work, and I never like to see that happen.
All right, guys, question is, what do you think about them already being in production? Do you think maybe they might launch it earlier than 2021? I really don't think so, but there's some speculation about that online. Jump on down to the comments section below and leave us your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move into our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here in the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simply. See, you guys come up with them by going anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. Hit submit. It's totally free. And maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question as one of the main topics here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Patreon supporter Louis Ianelio, who writes, and thank you so much, Louis, for being a Patreon supporter, by the way. With all of the conversations about why video game movies don't do well, could it be that the demographic for these movies is not as large as studios think? I, for one, am a comic book guy and have absolutely no interest in gaming, video game movies, merchandise, etc. Can it be that the comic book movie and video game movie fans are being lumped together mistakenly by a demographic by studios? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And this has been an ongoing discussion for ages and ages and ages. For the longest time, I've always said there are 3 rules in life: death, taxes, video game movies suck. That has just been the pattern. That's just been the way it is. Now, we've seen a couple of not half bad video game movies the last couple of years. I actually like the most recent Tomb Raider movie. I actually thought that was a decent little movie. I actually thought the Pikachu movie was a half decent little movie, not as good as I was hoping it would be. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie is actually better than I thought it would be. Again, not great. Why have video game movies not only been bad, but they've almost consistently always not done well? Now, contrary, Lewis, to what you were suggesting, I would actually propose to you that there are a lot more video game players than comic book readers these days. I mean, all you really have to do is look at comic book sales charts and look at video game sales charts and understand that a lot of comic book readers do play video games, and vice versa. There's cross-pollination there as well. But when you look at the sales of games and all that kind of stuff, I just think there are a lot more game players than there are comic book readers, which raises an interesting question. If there are so many more video game players, why do the movies based on video games not fare nearly as well as the movies based on comic books? Here's something to really put it all into perspective. When you look at the top number one box office success of video game movies, you're talking about Pokemon Detective Pikachu at $436 million. This is worldwide numbers. Warcraft made $433 million. And Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Better Than It Had Any Business Being Rampage made $428 million. That's great. Those are the top three worldwide grossing comic or video game movies of all time. But now compare that in contrast to the top comic book movies of all time. Avengers Endgame, $2.7 billion. Avengers Infinity War, $2 billion. The Avengers, $1.5 billion. And then as you go through the rest of the top 10, they're all in the $1 billion club. I mean, billions upon billions upon billions, as opposed to what we get over there, which is, of course, the video game movies, despite the fact that there are more video game players than comic book readers, not doing as well. The question becomes why? Aaron, I have one theory.
Okay.
I have a theory about this, and I don't know if people are going to agree or disagree, but here's my basic theory of this. I've always said that one of the reasons I believe video game movies usually aren't that good is because while the storytelling in video games has gotten a lot better over the years, and some of them have very good stories, at its foundation, video games are not designed to be storytelling motifs. They're designed for the gameplay element. You've got to enjoy playing the game. That is their first and should be their first priority, because that's what they are. They're a game. You got to make that your number one first priority. So that's kind of been my theory for a while about why video game movies aren't usually as good as other movies. I want to take that and follow it through to this conversation about why don't they do as well. And I think this. I believe, and I could be wrong about this, I believe that when it comes to video games, let's look at comic books first.
Okay.
When you come to a comic book, your expectation is to consume the comic book. Mm-hmm. You sit down, you open it, and you just take in the story. You take in the visuals, you take in the story. And so a movie version of a comic book becomes a logical extension of that. You sit in your seat in the theater and you take in all this wonderful goodness. So it is a very similar experience to sitting down and reading the comic book. Mm-hmm. Video games, though, are different. There is an interaction and a participation in video games. When somebody sits down with, God of War, and they're playing it, they're playing as the character. They're immersed in it. What they do directly affects what happens on their computer monitor or their television screen as they're doing. It is interactive, engaging, and participatory in nature. The movie experience is a totally different thing. They go in and they sit down in the theater and there is no participation. There is no engagement. There is no having a direct effect on what's going on the screen in front of you. It's actually a completely different experience. Mm-hmm. Reading the comic book and watching a comic book movie, not exactly the same, but quite similar in experience. Playing a video game versus watching a video game movie, drastically different experience. Look, I'm not saying this is the best theory in the world. I'm acknowledging this is not the best theory in the world. But when I think about why don't people who play video games get instantly turned on by a movie adaptation, I think there's a cognizant disconnect there because one is experiential in nature and one is not. But anyway, that's just my theory. Aaron, you look at these numbers And you see a huge discrepancy between the box office success of video game movies versus comic book movies. By the way, you can't take quality out of the conversation too. There have been a lot more, but then again, there have been a lot of crappy comic book movies over the year. But
Sure.
What do you kind of attribute this massive discrepancy to?
I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, it really is about interaction, which is what brings people into a video game. How can I see myself as this character? What devices am I allowed to use as this character versus I'm a passive viewer as I'm reading a comic book? I don't understand even why the two worlds are compared and connected in this analogy. And also, let's think about it. $436 million is a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And for Detective Pikachu, I think its budget was around 150. So to make 436 on a $150 million budget is actually a quite substantial quite a substantial amount of money and a success by all accounts. Just because it's not going into the $1 billion club doesn't mean that these movies are not successful and not earning their money back. What I don't understand is why we keep going back to the movie setup with the video game concept. One of the things that I really liked about I'm obsessed with the show Black Mirror. I love that show. There's not an episode that I won't watch. But there was one episode that was a choose your own adventure. Did you see that? Do you watch Black Mirror?
I don't watch Black Mirror.
Oh, John, please jump on board with me.
A lot of people tell me I need to watch it.
Oh my gosh, it's just so good. Every episode is fantastic. And there's a choose your own adventure episode where you actually get to, they come to a stopping point in the episode. And then you, as the viewer, say, okay, is this person going to maybe walk through door 1 or walk through door 2? Are they going to pick up the phone or are they going to let it ring? And obviously it all comes to this.
I've heard about this.
Yeah, it's a really cool episode. And so if anything, maybe there's a world in which a streaming platform takes a video game concept and says, okay, we're going to make a choose your own adventure streaming show or streaming film. That way it's not going into theaters so that people who are used to being inside the story have to sit passively in a movie theater with a 70-foot screen, feet away from it, but instead get to feel like they're actually in the story. And anybody who watches the show on Thursdays and Fridays knows that my thing is above all, it has to be about the story. And that's just not the way that video games are constructed. Video games are about the player. And let's face it, gamers are not necessarily flocking to the movie theaters. Gamers are gaming. They're sitting at home playing video games. That's what they're doing.
All right, guys, question for you is, there is clearly a massive discrepancy between how many people actually go out to see video game movies versus how many go out to watch comic book movies. I've thrown out some theories. We've got some theories. I don't know that they stick, but I don't know. This is the best one that I got. What do you guys attribute that to? I want to know what you think. Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Jeremy Shishabu, who writes, the official trailer for the 3rd season of Westworld has been released, and it has also confirmed the official release date of the 3rd season premiering next month, March 15th. Have you seen the trailer? Where does your excitement stand for this season of Westworld? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And listen, Westworld is a show that I have had a very odd relationship with. I think it's been a very odd relationship with. I thought the first season was borderline insufferably boring. And then, now as it got near the end of season 1, I was like, okay, some of the episodes actually turned out to be pretty intriguing. And the finale was great. The finale of season 1 was great. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give season 2 a shot. So then I watched season 2, and season 2 started off pretty strong. Like, I was intrigued by season 2, but about 3 or 4 episodes in, it just returned to its insufferably boring roots to me. And I'm like, I decided at the end of season 2, I tap out. I said, end of season 2, that's it. I'm done. I'm tapping out. No mas. No mas for me. I'm done with it. Whatever. So then yesterday, I see that the season 3 trailer dropped, right? So I'm like, well, I might as well at least watch the trailer.
Sure.
Because I know Aaron Paul's in it, and I like Aaron Paul. So I'm like, okay, I'll at least watch the trailer, and then I'll be done with it. fuck me. That trailer is awesome. The trailer is awesome. And it's completely unlike, I mean, forget the Westworld's gone now. I've never read the books. I understand this whole thing is basically predicated on a novel series or something. I've never read it, so take that with a grain of salt. But I was absolutely mesmerized by this trailer. You know, a lot of people say, you know, well, television today, I mean, I've said it, you've said it, television today is really more like really cinematic quality. Really, it's not, with some exceptions. There are some shows that really do, but most of them still don't. This trailer felt completely cinematic. And it was just, I was instantly drawn into it. This is the power, I'm doing a documentary on trailers right now, but this is the power of a frickin' trailer. I had no interest in watching season 3 of this show. None. Zero. I was done with it. I was bored to tears by it. And then all of a sudden I watched this trailer. I'm like, oh, damn, now I got to watch this season because that trailer I thought was awesome. And I'm not even a fan of Westworld. So full kudos to HBO for this thing that they put out. Aaron, by your reaction, I'm assuming that you are somebody who's been a viewer of Westworld and you seem to like it a lot. What did you think about the trailer for season 3?
Oh my gosh, I was blown away, and it's hard for me to be blown away because I'm already in. I'm already. You know, I was about to say I'm already blown. That doesn't sound right. It's not even Thursday. No, I loved season 1. I was completely enamored by just the technology of it, the surprises, the unexpected discoveries. Obviously, there may be people who aren't watching, so I can't say too much. I won't spoil anything for you, but those oh shit moments that just have you going, oh my gosh, now I need to go back and rewatch season 1. I've just been in it to win it from the beginning. I will agree with you. There were a lot of moments of season 2 that I mean, if I had to watch Tessa Thompson walking through through like brush in her gown and her boots one more time, I was like, okay, stop walking, just get to where you're going. That drove me a little bit crazy, but the performances are incredible. They have such a stellar cast. I mean, at this point, I didn't know that Aaron Paul was in this season, and when I saw him in the trailer, I immediately yelped. Like, my excitement level just shot up because I haven't seen Aaron Paul in anything since Breaking Bad that I've felt really captures him as an actor, as a performer.
Right.
He's got a darkness to him that also weirdly has an innocent quality. He's a very complex actor, and that is what makes him so intriguing to watch. And this is more, it seems, of an adult role for him to break away from his Breaking Bad character that he was put into. I really think that he's going to have another resurgence, or a resurgence, when he does this. I love the music. Ramin Djawadi. I'm sorry,
I can't remember
his last name. He did all the music for season 1. He also did the theme song for Game of Thrones. He did Red Dawn. He's done some incredible pieces of work. And when you start that trailer with Guns N' Roses, but it's all, you know, in instrumental, it was so beautiful.
It was great.
And it really captures you and it brings you right back there. But what I love about this is we've stepped out of the world of dust and brothels and westerns, and we're now straight up into the future.
It had a little bit of a Blade Runner feel to it, actually.
Very Blade Runner.
Like when the ship's taking off with the cityscape, very Blade Runner.
And I like also, I mean, there's a moment where you see... oh my gosh, the lead actress.
Evan Rachel Wood?
Thank you. Evan Rachel Wood's character... and she is putting on her skin, like her face is there, and she's putting on her arm as if it's a glove.
Yeah.
It is so incredible how they did that. And in fact, it took me probably 5 minutes just to watch the first 7 seconds because I kept stopping and playing to see how they were doing just the iris of the eyeball. I just find those shots so fascinating, and I'm thrilled. I cannot wait. March 15th, I am there. Westworld, viewing parties at my house. Let's do it.
All right, question here is, guys, What did you think about the Westworld Season 3 trailer? Maybe you didn't like it at all and you're like kind of over it. Maybe you're like me where you're not even into the show, but you thought the trailer was bonkers and now you got to watch it. How did you feel about it? Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Aaron Martinez, who writes, "Hey, John. Wondering if you saw the reports that Matt Reeves' Batman movie is currently casting for Robin. Who do you think they should get to be the boy wonder alongside Pattinson? Thanks." All right. Thanks a lot for sending this in, man. And listen, this is normally a topic I would not even cover. But I literally got, when I went into the topics you guys submit, there were literally over 20 messages from you guys about it, so I thought I should at least address this. So, as you guys know, Matt Reeves is currently shooting. They're already in production. They're shooting the film, The Batman. All very excited about it. Still bummed it's not Ben Affleck directing it. But you know what? If it can't be Ben Affleck, I'm totally happy with Matt Reeves. He's a great director. So they're currently shooting the film. Now, this rumor started going around, and I started getting people messaging me about, did you hear they're looking to cast Robin? They're casting Robin right now. And at first I'm thinking, you'd think if they're already shooting Batman, you'd think they'd have their Robin already, if there was indeed a Robin. So now look, I'm always telling you guys, follow the source, follow the source, follow the source. Where does it come from? Well, here's where this whole rumor came from. And I'm going to let you know, there is absolutely no fact, okay? There's speculation. There's speculation based on some, let's say, anecdotal evidence, but there is no fact here. But anyway, this comes to us from Cineblend, who writes that over at the Casting Collective, which is this casting body, there is a casting call for men and women of all ethnicities, age 17 and up, who are located in Northwest England and have circus skills with particular interest in fire dancers, fire breathers, and puppet operators. They're needed for a major action feature film that's shooting in Liverpool this March. So some of you might be looking at the computer right now saying, what the hell does any of that have to do with Batman? Well, here's the thing. Dick Grayson, the original Robin, he, of course, was a part of the Flying Graysons. They were a circus family. His family was killed at a accident at the circus, in which Bruce Wayne took young Dick Grayson on as his ward, de facto adopted him, and he becomes Robin. So what's happening here is people are seeing the word circus and going, there can be no other logical explanation in the world for a circus. This has to be related to Batman. Now, there's a couple things I do want to point out here. Number one, the movie Batman's already shooting. Mm-hmm. It's already shooting. If you were going to have a Robin character in a Batman movie, that is a role that would have been filled months ago. Mm-hmm. That you don't just bring on a Robin last second as you're already shooting the film. So there's that. The second thing I want to point out is that this report never says Batman. Never says Batman. Next point. They're saying it's shooting in Liverpool. This is a movie that will be shooting in Liverpool. Batman is not shooting in Liverpool. It's in the UK, but it's shooting in London right now, which, by the way, is on the complete opposite end of the country of England. Mm-hmm. So it's not shooting in Liverpool. So there's that. So when you start to add up the facts, it never says it's Batman. It never says they're casting a Robin. It says they're looking for circus performers who are puppet operators and can breathe fire. They're saying it's a movie that's shooting in Liverpool, which doesn't equate here. You would have had your Robin by now. Look, I look at this, and there's a couple of things. In the world of these rumors, this is not as much of a stretch as some other rumors, because again, there is some anecdotal thing here. A major action film, filming in the UK, looking for circus people. Okay, so like there are a lot of rumors that come out that I go, oh my God, how can you be so stupid to even mention this rumor? There's so nothing to it. I'll at least give this rumor that much credit though. There's at least some anecdotal evidence. I give it that. But when you sit down still and do all the math, to me, no, it does not look like they are casting a Robin. It does not look like this movie is even in any way related to Batman. So while I get the wondering and I get the raised eyebrows, and I get it. I don't personally think there's anything here to this right now. I just don't think there's any connection whatsoever. Aaron, you see, I mean, and you get the perspective that you're not even on the deep inside hardcore comic book movie fan, but you hear all this. There is some anecdotal stuff. I believe there's some anecdotal stuff against it. Do you think there's any possibility here that this is a specific casting call that signals that we're going to have a Robin in this movie? Do you think that?
I don't, because for exactly what you said, at this point with them already filming, I mean, that would be a major piece of news if there was going to be a Robin in this film. That would not be something subtle that you would brush over. And unless we've heard about a lot of the other castings going on in this project, we would have known about that. There would have been something, so-and-so's announced as Robin and blah, blah, blah. For them to keep something like that so hush-hush would be pretty shocking, I think. And it's definitely, as you said, not something you would throw in at the last minute. And for all the other reasons why you said, if they're filming in one location, yes, of course, movies and TV shows do other locations all the time, but it just doesn't sound feasible that that's what this is. I mean, who knows? Anything's possible, as we've seen. Things are definitely happening, and then they just evaporate in thin air. Things are definitely not happening, and all of a sudden, that's where they are. But based on what you said, I'm leaning towards a no. This is probably not the Batman.
Now, I do want to say this. Is there a possibility here that there could be a Dick Grayson Easter egg?
Sure. For the next one. Yeah.
Could it be that there's at some point he comes across somebody and goes, oh, this is Dick Grayson? I suppose, but that would have been all over the news by now.
Like an ending credit, something or other. When the movie ends, and then at the ending credit, all of a sudden he's in this circus area or whatever, or we just see a hint of it, and we don't even see who, and therefore we don't even necessarily have to see who Robin would be.
Exactly.
We just go to a circus.
Silhouette or something like that.
Exactly.
I mean, basically, though, I don't think there's any evidence here suggested in any real material way that the Robin character, Dick Grayson, is going to be a part of this movie. Some vague reference, some Easter egg. I mean, all that stuff is possible. Of course it's possible. And by the way, if they do an Easter egg from it, it doesn't mean they have to follow through with it in the next film. We've seen that happen all the time.
Right.
So it's possible. But listen, I was curious to know what you guys thought about this, considering all the headlines and the reports that are going around, a lot of the speculation. Do you guys think this? So I made that the topic of today's question of the day. And the topic of today's question of the day, the way I put it to you guys was simply this. With all the rumors swirling around, do you believe the new Batman movie will have Robin in it? We discussed this and more on today's show here. I put this up just before the show started. Right now, almost 1,600 of you guys have voted. Right now, 68.9% of you guys are saying, no, you do not believe that Robin's going to be in it. But there is 31.1% of you guys who believe, look, there is some anecdotal evidence it could be. So 31.1% of you saying he will be in it. 68.9% of you guys are saying he will not be in it. I want to know what you guys think. Jump on down into the comments section below, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think with these rumors that Rob will be a part of it? I don't think so, but maybe you think he does. Jump down and let me know why. All right. With that down, let's move on to our fourth and final main topic today. And our fourth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Isaac Beebe, who writes, Hey, John. According to Variety magazine and Randy Pitchford from Gearbox, a Borderlands film is being produced by Lionsgate Studio with Eli Roth attached to direct. Have you, Rob, or anyone else working on the show played any of the games, and what do you think of this? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And speaking of video game movies, we've got another one on the way. Actually, there are a few in development right now, but we officially have one on the way officially. Lionsgate has announced it. Eli Roth is coming on board to do Borderlands. Now, some of you may or may not know. I'm sure you recognize the imagery. You may not know a lot. This is from Deadline, who writes, Borderlands is set in the distant future in which 4 vault hunters travel to the distant planet Pandora to hunt down an alien vault rumored to contain advanced alien technology. The hunters find themselves battling the local wildlife and bandit population, but ultimately attempt to stop the head of a private corporation army from reaching the vault first. Borderlands has sold more than 57 million units around the globe. More than 57 million units around the globe. That is impressive. Now, right off the top, I'll tell you, I have never played Borderlands. I've sat down with buddies and watched my buddies. There's a lot of you games I just hang out and watch my buddies play the game. I've watched them play Borderlands. They love the game. Like, the people I know who played the game are absolutely insanely passionate about the game. They love it. And I'll tell you what, I like this news for a couple of reasons. Number one, the setting of Borderlands does create a very interesting playground for a storyteller to come in and do a really cool kind of epic kind of movie. I mean, again, it's all about execution, but at least you want to start with good building blocks. And I think the game gives you some nice building blocks that you can start from. That doesn't mean the movie's going to be good. Could be total trash, but at least it's an interesting starting point. So I kind of like that. The other thing I really dig is this. I'm a fan of Eli Roth. I like the dude. I've had a chance to meet him a couple times. He's a very fun guy to be around. But on top of that, I like his directing style. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I like every single one of his movies. I do not, as a matter of fact, like every single one of his movies. For instance, Hostel Part 2. Wasn't a big fan of Hostel Part 2. I did like Green Inferno, though. I like Green Inferno more than I thought I would. But anyway, he also just did, and he directed Death Wish. Oh my God, that was bad. Death Wish was so bad. So, Death Wish. But then he did this little film with Jack Black in 2018 called it's clock, the House with a Clock in Its Walls or something with Jack Black. Looked totally garbage. I wasn't even going to go see it. I did just because I had nothing better to do that night, so I went to the press screening. It was better than I thought. It was actually kind of nice. I liked the movie. So it was really neat seeing Eli Roth challenging himself as a director, going from Hostel and that sort of thing to doing like a kid's adventure thing in like a House with a Clock in Its Walls. And while it wasn't an Oscar-winning film or anything, I thought he did a pretty damn good job of it, and it really impressed me seeing him stretch himself like that. And I just think, take the good movies and take the bad movies. When you look at his directorial style, Aaron, when you look at this style that he has, I think that style and that kind of gumption that he brings to his movies with something like Borderlands, I think that could be bonkers. Again, could be a total tire fire. It could be completely garbage. Absolutely. But I think there's potential there, at least, that this could be something that could be really bonkers and really interesting. You hear this news, Eli Roth directing this video game movie for Lionsgate. What do you think of it?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, first of all, Eli Roth, I agree with you. He is what makes him exciting as a filmmaker and as an actor is the fact that
I like him as an actor. Thanks.
I love him
I
as
really
an actor.
do like seeing him as
the
an actor.
Bear Jew, come on.
Yes.
Come on. I think he's really exciting because he's not afraid to take risks. And part of taking risks is sometimes having something that doesn't do as well as you thought it was going to do. Sometimes things even bomb. And the fact that he is like, all right, well, that didn't work out well. It doesn't matter. I have 11 things in development right now, which he does. As a producer, he has 11 projects in development, 1 project as an actor that's coming out, and I think 4 directing projects that are, all in development or various stages of production at this point. So the guy just continues to work, and he continues to learn from other people who are, really doing, masters at what they do. I know that he's really close with Quentin Tarantino. I did a series with Lorenza Izzo. When we did a show for AMC together, they were married. They're since divorced, but she played the Italian wife in Once Upon a Time in
Hollywood.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was the Italian wife. It was really fun to see her doing that. But she's a lot of fun, so I'm assuming that Eli is probably a lot of fun as well. So that makes a lot of sense. And he just looks like one of those guys that loves making movies. He loves everything about making movies. He loves just getting in there. He wants to try different genres. And like I said, he enjoys taking risks, and that means that sometimes things aren't going to work out so well, but when they do, man, are they exciting.
Yeah, I'm really down for this. I think this sounds great. Again, could be a dumpster fire of a movie, but I think right now the potential there is pretty good. Question is, guys, what do you think about Lionsgate producing a Borderlands movie with Eli Roth directing. That's the part that really gets me excited. Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys, with all that down and out of the way, we're now going to move on and take live questions that you guys have been sending in on this Friday. Now, before we do, though, as I like to do, we're going to take just a short break here for a couple of minutes, give us a chance to rest the vocal cords, stretch the legs, refill the drink, give you a chance to run and use the bathroom. So if you will hang tight with us, guys, for a couple of minutes, we will be right back with the live questions. We'll see you in just a minute. Somebody's saying that none of that was there because apparently my audio was off.
Oh, goodness.
Apparently I went to turn the audio on and it did not turn back on.
Oh, but John,
but
that
it's
was
back
brilliant.
now. But it's back now. You know what? I'm going to back up quickly to Willow.
Oh, that's lovely.
I got to back up with Willow because the audio apparently was off. But now it's back on. But I hit the audio button. It didn't turn on. Anyway, my bad on that, guys. Sorry about that. So the Cineplex thing... what I was talking about a little bit earlier was that Cineplex was once my like all-time favorite movie theater chain. They become completely corrupted and evil. They're just terrible in my estimation. But the silver lining here is that they have just been bought by Cineworld in the UK, the same company that just bought Regal and instituted Regal's Unlimited Movie Pass. So here's hoping they're able to turn things around. Okay, Akamara was talking about a reference I did the other day saying, hey, John, so I heard a rumor the other day that John Goodman was going to be Daredevil in the MCU. What are your thoughts on this? And of course, that's because I said on the show the other day, I mean, anybody can start a rumor. Listen, I'll start a rumor. John Goodman's going to play Daredevil there. And then I got all these tweets from people saying, John, did you hear John Goodman's going to play Daredevil? So that was a good callback. All right, Jay Bling then wrote, reading the name Tyler Rake for Chris Hemsworth's character in Extraction got me thinking. I have zero writing aspirations, but if I did, I feel like my biggest challenge wouldn't be plot, character development, or dialogue, but names. And what I mentioned was that in an action film, seriously, you name the lead character Tyler Rake. I'm like, and I said, maybe it's unfair of me to say this, but seeing that that's the name they gave the character, it gives me very low expectations for the writing of this movie. But who knows? Maybe it'll great. I hope it will be.
I also think that the name Tyler, once you have Tyler Durden in Fight Club, I just think Tyler it's done. It's done.
That should be a retired name.
It's like 33. You can never be a basketball player with the number 33. You just can't.
Who was 33?
Michael Jordan.
I don't think Michael Jordan was 33, was he? I'll say. I got
really
to look
embarrassed if he wasn't. Okay, now 24.
I was going to say, yeah,
Kobe Bryant.
Yes. And yes, Michael Jordan was 23. I knew it wasn't 33. So there we go. You tried to make a sports reference. I'm proud of you.
Hey,
I am proud of you for the attempt.
Thank you. Me and Eli Roth. You just got to take some risks. Sometimes you're going to bomb, but every once in a while, I get a good one.
But I'm proud of you trying to do a sports reference. Sports ball.
Thanks, John.
Well
sports
done.
Ball.
Well done. Colby Harris, but I was like, as I was correcting you, like, I know it's not 23, but now I mean, I know it's not 33, but if I'm wrong, I'm going to look really stupid, so I had to go and check that. All right, Colby Harris writes, hey, John and Rob, if you're there, I just got my hands on the Mark 6 Iron Man Hot Toys, the one with the triangle arc reactor. What is your favorite Iron Man armor? From the movies, Iron Man 1, the Mark, I think it's the Mark 3. I think that is my favorite one. It still is my favorite one. I love that. I hate this stupid nanotech armor he does. I think that's idiotic. I love the Iron Man character. I love him in all the movies. Tony Stark, I love all that. But the one little thing that really bothers me is the stupid nanotech angle that they take. So I've never liked that. Kosher Face writes, what's Universal's biggest IP? Jurassic Park / World or Fast and the Furious?
Ooh.
It depends if you take quantity into it. Because I think a per film average, I've got a feeling the Jurassic World movies might be bigger. I'm not sure of that though. But I mean, considering they've cranked out now with Hobbs and Shaw and with 9 coming out now, that's 10 Fast and the Furious movies. You know what? I just think Jurassic World 3 will make more money than Fast and the Furious 9. So I'll go Jurassic still.
See, I'm going to go Fast and Furious because
yeah, you might be right.
Because you have to take that into account. Any franchise that has the ability to have that many films and have them continue to make money and not lose steam, like that's saying a lot. I mean, when Jurassic World gets to Jurassic World 9 and they're still making as much money as they were in the beginning, then I think it's a fair comparison. But I mean, it's pretty incredible the ability for such a frankly dumb concept to be able to have this type of longevity and still make this kind of money.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I mean, you can't snub your nose at that.
I think it's close. I'll lean towards Jurassic World. Aaron's leaning towards Fast 9. What do you guys think about that? All right. Next up, Topher Rocks writes, Is it Topher Rocks? Yes. Topher Rocks writes, first to get a directing Oscar, Christopher Nolan or Paul Thomas Anderson. Also, will George Lucas get an honorary Oscar at some point? If I'm not mistaken, I think George Lucas does have an honorary Oscar already. One second. Let me just
One would think.
put this up. Well, in the meantime, Aaron, who gets the Oscar, an Oscar first, Christopher Nolan or Paul Thomas Anderson?
I'm going to say Christopher Nolan. Paul Thomas Anderson gets nominated a lot. I feel like he's always invited to the party, but he's never the guest of honor. And I love his movies. I think his work is brilliant. But for some reason, there's always that movie every time that he's nominated. People go, oh, yeah, that was really good. But this movie, and Christopher Nolan, also someone who takes risks, but it seems like all of his risks pay off. He just tends to have these movies that are just showstopper movies that I think he's got an Oscar on the way.
I think, while I love Paul Thomas Anderson stuff, his stuff is also very radically stylized.
Oh yeah, you have to know exactly what you're getting, and you have to be ready for that, and you have to like it.
Because we just saw the one for the trailer for The French Dispatch just came out, and it's like, this feels exactly like the Grand Budapest Hotel, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. I'm just saying he's so hyper stylized, whereas Christopher Nolan, I don't know, just seems more. I hate it's a word that's overused, but I think it's applicable here. His films just feel more epic in nature, like grander in nature, really embodying filmmaking. So they're both excellent, but I'm going to guess Nolan's going to get first. And by the way, yes, George Lucas already does have an honorary one. He won the Irvin G. Thalberg Award in 1992, which was partially presented by him by the crew on the space shuttle at the time, which was appropriate at the time. All right. Let's see here. Lycon Zero writes, you should check out the virtual production of The Mandalorian on... I did see that. It's amazing. You should check out the virtual production of The Mandalorian on ILM's YouTube channel. It's fascinating what they've done to create that world. If you have not seen any stuff on how they did Mandalorian with the scapes and the advanced digital paint backdrops, it's insane what they were able to do. With this visually, you should absolutely go and check. Have you seen these videos?
No.
Yet?
Where do you
look how cute Joey looks.
Oh,
she's so tired.
She's a little annoyed that I took her out of the dog bed that you set up for her. She's like, I'm in the middle of a nap, Mom.
I think she's perfectly happy being there too. Okay, let's see. Ben Sultan writes, hey, I can see Feige reference Sony universe by simply using Sony smartphones or tape recorders used in the first Guardians. I don't know that I would consider that referencing the universe. Because he does live in the world. We see Ford cars driving by in the MCU. That doesn't mean he's referencing a Ford cinematic universe. So I don't know if that would... I don't know, Ben, that I would count that as a reference of the Sony universe. I don't know if I would count that as a reference. Fun Overlord X writes, hey, John, have you seen the Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland Doc and Marty deepfake? I hope Robert Downey Jr. is paying attention. Yeah, it was fun. I'm so completely over the deepfake stuff, though.
Yeah.
I'm over it. I mean, I get it. It's really clever. And listen, it does look amazing. It's an incredible... I mean, whoever did that, whoever the artist is that put that together, kudos. Because excellent job.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I'm completely over the deepfake stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about it. It was cute. It was neat. It's revolutionary. The technology is amazing. The artists who do it are wonderful, but I'm just kind of over it.
I think there was a fear for a moment when the movie came out or was being talked about with died in a car crash, famous actor, Rebel Without a Cause, James Dean.
I almost said Dean Martin. By the way, don't forget, James Dean has a new movie coming out.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing is I think the reaction to that was more, oh, this is a gimmick, not, oh, that's so exciting. So anybody who maybe was thinking about doing that has seen the backlash and the complete disinterest of people. Actually, I mean, nobody wants to see that movie. So if you're going to use that as an opportunity to sell something, I think people have realized, oh, maybe we have to have something a little bit more than that.
I agree. All right, next up. Halaja writes, hey, John, just heard a rumor that Marvel is going to, here we go, that Marvel is going to reboot Daredevil. John Goodman is attached to write, direct, and star as the title character. I am so excited. Do you see this movie being the first comic book movie to win Best Picture at the Academy Awards?
Definitely.
Well, absolutely, but I damn well better be invited to come up on stage with them when they take that award as like the originating executive producer, creator of the concept.
100%.
I better. By the way, can I just use this moment to say again, what was it I came across the other? I came across "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" the other day. Mm-hmm. We all know John Goodman. Can I just say though, I think we are just so used to, oh yeah, John Goodman's great, that we don't appreciate how great John Goodman is. Yeah. And because I saw clips of him in "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" again, and I forgot how great he was in this. And I thought, he's great in everything. And I just went down this rabbit hole. I opened up IMDb and I started going through his movies. Like, hey, he's awesome in that. And he's awesome in that.
I love him in Argo.
Oh my God, he's great in Argo.
He's so good in Argo.
So you know what? I was joking. Sign me up. John Goodman, older, rugged, veteran Matt Murdock.
He can do it. Absolutely.
You did Batman or The Dark Knight. You did The Dark Knight Returns with an old grizzled Bruce Wayne coming out of retirement to make John Goodman an old grizzled Matt Murdock who'd been fed up with the system, and he says, it's time for me to come out of retirement and kick ass. And he comes back, I'm in.
And he's always working. This is a guy that if he's not doing The Conners or he's not doing a film, then he's on Broadway, doing a play. And the thing about him, I know people who are friends with him, and they're just saying that he's always working. He's just he never stops working at his craft, and I think that that's remarkable. I think it would be very easy for him to just say, I'm going to stay in LA where it's comfortable. I'm not going to go to New York for 9 months and do a play. But the fact that he's always looking for work to do and is always ready to do work, whether it's stage, small screen, big screen, I think it speaks volumes about him as an actor.
I would say this too. He has one of the most comforting voices. Like, I think if I had something really disappointing happen in my life, like something really, really, I don't know, something tremendously disappointing, I don't know that there's anybody I'd rather have sit beside me, put his hand on my shoulder and just go, it'll be okay, John. In that voice. I mean, I think that's the voice I want to hear to comfort me. It's just very comforting voice. I love it.
If I had to choose, it would be Sam Elliott.
Oh, with his mustache? Yes,
he would say it, and then he would hold me, and then we'd kiss, we'd make out, and his mustache would be all over my face.
Did you ever do you ever see him as the other Ron on Parks and Rec?
What?
You didn't know this?
What?
Oh yeah, he's got a recurring character on Parks and Rec in the latter seasons called the other Ron. He's amazing in it. He's absolutely amazing.
Oh my gosh!
All right, we keep moving on here. Faye Haberfeld writes, to the kid who said The Gentleman is the only good movie that came out this year, I call BS. Some great movies that I've seen were released in 2020. The Lodge, amazing horror film. The Assistant and Ordinary Love. Have you seen any of them? I have not. I think he was really talking about the wide release films, which really so far this year, there haven't been a lot of great wide release films so far. Sonic's not bad. But The Gentleman to me is the best movie to come out yet this year. Now, granted, I am a little bit more in love with this movie than most people, but I thought The Gentleman was fantastic. A total return to form for Guy Ritchie. I absolutely loved it. All right. Firebird85 writes, the way you hate S.H.I.E.L.D. is the way I hate the DCU. That's fair enough. Ryan Lohner writes, one of my most hated movie cliches, someone stumbles on a crime scene and their first instinct is to get their fingerprints on as many things as humanly possible. Perhaps most annoying in The Spanish Prisoner, which is otherwise really smart. See here, I don't know that I would call that a movie cliche, Ryan. I would call that a movie fault.
Sloppiness.
Yeah, sloppy. That's them overlooking that. That's not how it's like a cliche is a device they specifically use to further a plot that they can't make further itself in a more natural, organic way. That is just pure oversight. Like, for instance, I would also not cliche, but one of the biggest things that bothers me about a lot of movies. Guys got to go down to the courthouse to get to a court in time. There is a public parking spot right in front of the front doors of the court, always available. And they just pull, there's always, the parking is always open and available. That's not a cliche. That's just like a big fault that I see in a lot of movies. Other than the fingerprints and the parking, do you have any others?
Which if anybody has ever gone to any courthouse in any city in America, there's never a parking spot.
Never a parking
Not
spot
just
right
out front. You have to walk, like the last time that I had jury duty, I had to walk, our parking was like a mile away. But great Spanish Prisoner reference. I love that movie.
That's a good one. All right, next one up. Hadouken writes, after the backlash of the movie A Dog's Journey, with one of the dogs suffering from what seems animal cruelty on set, and by the way, I think that all got settled out. I think that ended up not being, if I remember correctly, I think that kind of played itself because it was actually kind of shown that they were taking but whatever. It is what it is. I think with animal cruelty, I said, I can kind of see why the movie studio for The Call of the Wild are playing it safe with the CGI dog, even though I prefer a real one too. I don't know that had anything to do with it, because lots of dog movies have come out since then that don't use CGI dogs.
But isn't he also like in a raft going down the rapids at certain points? I could see if they had a real dog for most of the film, the things that weren't necessarily in water, the things that weren't where Harrison Ford was going to be using a stunt double, and they used a CGI dog that looked like the real dog for that.
They do that with people.
Sure, of course,
Yeah.
absolutely. One little thing that I read that I thought was so funny was apparently when dogs are supposed to be mean dogs, they have to actually CGI their tails out because their tails are wagging so much because they're doing a good job and they're being a good boy or a good girl, and so their tails are constantly wagging. So the biggest CGI on dogs in movies and TV shows is getting their waggy tails out.
That's so. Yeah, look, if that was the concern, then you have a real dog in most of the movie. And then when you have a dog, jumping on and attacking a bear or going over the rapids, okay, yeah, CGI. We do that with people. So why not do it? I have no problem with that. That's perfectly fine. There's a scene where the dog has to put his head up and just look at Harrison Ford. And it's clearly a Disney animated face. And it's like, I hate this movie already. I haven't seen it and I hate it. I hate it.
And also to go back to your point about A Dog's Journey, I felt really bad for just that whole situation because the producer of the film, this was a love story to dogs for him. He is a massive dog fan and he rescues dogs, and this was his love letter to dogs. And so what he said was, why is it that the person who had this footage, apparently that was a B movie crew. It wasn't the main unit. So he was not on set that day. The person from the ASPCA not the ASPCA, but whatever organization is supposed to be there to monitor the animals had stepped outside to take a phone call. And so we said, okay, why was that even shot if she wasn't or he wasn't in the room when they were shooting that scene? There were all these things that went on, but he said more than anything, why didn't that get brought to our attention while we were filming the movie, the very day that it happened, so that we could have done something about it? Why would you wait and hold on to that footage until a month before the movie comes out in theaters? Yeah. It just had
very politically motivated.
Right. It reeked of some sort of weird internal sabotage sort of thing. And I felt bad because the movie itself, I saw it and it was actually really good.
All right, let's move on here. Next up, James L.H. writes, "Hey, John, regarding Ben Affleck talk, it was interesting hearing about the interview. Like every actor, he's done movies I've liked and disliked. But I remember the reaction to when he was cast as Batman, which I had no problem with. He did a couple of, to me, bad ones. Geely, Jersey Girl, Paycheck was okay. Then a little later, he had one of my favorites of his with Hollywoodland, which he was great in, and which I don't think gets talked about enough. He then started churning out some really good performances again. I have always, unapologetically, been a defender of Ben Affleck as an actor. I think he is quite good. Now, has he done some stinkers? Absolutely he has. Everybody's had bad days at the office. But I remember when Ben Affleck was cast as Batman, and I was one of the few people who was really excited about it. I would tell people, you've clearly never seen, and I listed out, because all they would do is talk about movies they probably never saw, because a lot of people who's complaining about him in Geely probably never even saw Geely. But I would say, I'm going to go out on a limb. You've never seen Changing Lanes, have you? I'm just going to go out on a limb and guess you've never seen Changing Lanes. It's the movie he did with Samuel L. Jackson. Because if you watch that, you have to acknowledge he's got some real acting chops. I'm not saying he's the greatest actor in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but I always felt he is a far better actor than people give him credit for. I'm not saying he's a top 10 greatest actor in the world. I'm not going that far, but I think he is a really solid, good actor. And I cannot wait to see The Way Back. I cannot wait to see this movie, especially after reading. Did you have a chance to read that article in the New York Times about him?
I didn't read. I read excerpts from where he says that a lot of this is he's drawing on his own personal experience about how his divorce from Jennifer Garner was the biggest mistake of his life, and he was going through alcoholism, and I mean, yeah, he went through a pretty rough road.
It's powerful, and I tell you what, even without his own personal catharsis attachment to the movie, I just think this movie looks fantastic, and knowing that he's in it, I got to admit, at first, when I heard this was about a year ago, hearing that he was going to star in a movie about a tragically recovering alcoholic who destroyed his life, trying to kind of make amends by coming back, getting involved in a kids basketball team. At first I thought that's going to be far too distracting, having him being in that role. I think that's going to overshadow everything else. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt like, you know what? I don't feel like this is even just a cathartic moment for him. I feel like I think the catharsis might extend out even to the audience. And I found myself now feeling like, no, he's the guy to do this role.
Yeah.
At first I was against it, and now I'm like, no, he's the guy.
Well, I think that we've also, there's certain actors that we've almost seen grow up in front of our eyes. I mean,
Yes.
Robert Downey Jr. is a perfect example. We saw him when he was doing, like John Hughes movies where he weighed 130 pounds soaking wet and was like this tiny, scrawny little kid. And then he grew into like this bad boy of Hollywood and destroyed his career and couldn't get insured and couldn't get hired. And then he, rose up and like a phoenix and became sort of the king of Hollywood and Tony Stark, and he can do no wrong. And I think that there is something, not to reference yesterday's off-color commentary, but everybody loves a comeback.
Everybody loves a comeback.
And so I think that as an audience, it's nice when we can cheer somebody on who we've really watched struggle and continue. I mean, he could have easily, after Gigli or after any of his flops, he could have easily said, "Oh, I can't take the heat, so I'm just going to go and do something else." But he keeps coming back and he keeps trying and he keeps making films as an actor, as a director, as a writer, and I think it's wonderful.
All right, let's move on here. Next up comes to us from AJ Luna writes, would you be okay with Brie Larson as Ahsoka Tano? She won an Oscar. Listen, I think doing an Ahsoka movie would be idiotic because I think it's a terrible, terrible character. If you want to do a good standalone character, do a Cara Dune. Do a Cara Dune movie. But if they were going to do something stupid and make an Ahsoka Tano movie, then just get a great actress to play it. Brie Larson's a great actress. She's an Academy Award-winning actress, so I wouldn't want the movie in the first place, but if you're going to do it, that's as good of an actress to do it as anybody. Dan Ketchum writes, Birds of Prey stands at 152 million worldwide. Obviously, the theater cut will take a chunk, and so will marketing, but with a budget of 84 million, do you think it can still make it into profitability? No, it won't. They spent around $75 million or more, but we'll go around $75 million on the marketing of this film. That puts this thing at over 150, 160 million dollars right there. Then minimum you take away 1/3 for the theater's take. That means this movie needs to make around, I don't know, 275, maybe roughly, to break even, somewhere around that. And I just don't think it's going to get there. So, I mean, I'm trying to do this on fly. I'm sure the math isn't quite there, but it needs to make a lot more money, and it's just already run out of steam. So I don't think it's going to be profitable, unfortunately. And look, I didn't like the film, but I want every movie to be successful. But it's not going to be, unfortunately. Sam O'Neill writes, hey, John and Rob, have you guys seen or heard of anything about the new Netflix series called Ragnarok? Looks meh, but I might give it a go. Netflix is the worst studio, broadcaster, streamer in the world at marketing their own stuff. I've heard of Ragnarok, but I remember we talked about it a while ago, but I really don't know much about it, so they're not putting it on my radar. So why should it be on my radar? 50 Shades of Geek writes, I finally got to see Sonic. It was about as well as I expected. It was a live-action cartoon for children, but hey, at least I enjoyed it, and that's all that matters to me. I'll tell you what, that was my same reaction to it. It's like, look, this is a movie that is clearly made for one of two groups, children and people who are passionate about Sonic. Not really for anybody else. But I am one of the somebody else's. I'm not a child. Well, at least not physically. I'm not a child physically, nor am I really a huge Sonic fan. But even I thought there are certainly moments that are very funny. The characters are nice. Jim Carrey steals the show. I thought it was all right. So yeah, it's basically there. All right. Russell Drinkard writes, why are people against movie sequels to certain great movies, like Joker, for example? If Joker gets a sequel and it's bad, then it's not like it ruins the original. You could just avoid watching it ever ever again and only watch the original. Normally I completely agree with that, because when people complain about a remake, I'm like, why are you complaining that they're making a remake? It's not affecting the original film.
Right.
If anything, studies have proven that when you do a remake to a movie, interest in the original movie goes up. One of the great studies was done on Infernal Affairs. When The Departed came out, it like quadrupled the number of people who had seen Infernal Affairs because of The Departed, right? So there's nothing bad there. The Joker is a very unique situation. The reason I kind of hope they don't do one, but don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be angry if they decide to do a Joker sequel, not at all. The reason I hope they don't do one, though, is because with Joker, they proved you can do a standalone, isolated universe, totally wild storytelling thing, blah, 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 and make it work. And it worked. It won Oscars. It made over $1 billion, blah, blah, blah. My fear, and it's just a fear. My fear is that if they do a sequel, they'll give in the temptation of going more traditional comic book movie route that will kind of undermine the specialness of this and then affect what movies they choose to do in the future. Again, that's unsubstantiated. That's just a fear. There's nothing more than a fear. So I hope they don't do a sequel to The Joker, but I totally understand why they will. I do. I completely understand why they will. It's just I have this little fear, and hopefully that fear doesn't pan out. What would you probably hear a lot of people saying you shouldn't make a sequel to this, you should, but I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like remakes, agree with you. I think they're fine. Sequels, I just go, but why? Do we need it? And those are two separate questions. And one question, why do we need it, and why? And do we even need that? Because if the story ended and it was a fully formed story, what more is there to tell? If there is a burning story inside of the writer, or someone has this incredible story that's just they're busting at the seams that needs to be told, then that's one thing. But if it's just because of, oh, well, the movie made a lot of money. I mean, and this, I'm not talking about the Fast and the Furious franchise, because obviously that is not about a burning desire for storytelling. It is about exactly what people want to see: fast cars, crazy stunts. That is a separate beast. I'm talking about a movie like Joker that is critically acclaimed. I just don't see a reason for a sequel. Now, I could be proven wrong. Happens every day. So if somebody wants to tell that story and make another $1 billion and win some more Academy Awards, more power to you. But I would hate to see that even be a conversation, though, because even when you talk about The Godfather, people go, yeah, but, there was Godfather. There's always like a little bit of but the sequel was pretty crappy. It's
not Godfather 2.
No, Godfather 3.
3,
Godfather 3.
Which I've always thought was funny, because Godfather 3 also got nominated for Best Picture.
Of course it did.
But
yeah,
it was so nowhere near as good as the first two. I get it. But it is what it is. All right. Okay, sorry. We got to move on here. 50 Shades of Geek writes, I hope Sonic gets a sequel, even though I like the movie. I wish it was better. That mid-credit scene, that's all I'm going to say. Again, if you are somebody who is into Sonic, because there are going to be a lot of people who see the mid-credit scene of Sonic and just, it's not going to matter to you at all. But if you know Sonic, the mid-credit scene, that's all I'm going to say, you got to make sure you stick around for the mid-credit scene. All right. Eat That Horace writes, hope the reports of Robin are true. I don't think they are. I hate how recent movies have made people think Batman has to just be grim, gritty realism all the time. Batman will always have some campy elements that require some suspension of disbelief. Well, here's the thing. Of course, there has to be some, of any movie, there has to be some suspension of disbelief. Here's the only thing I ever ask of a movie. Tell me what the rules of your universe is. Mm-hmm. What is logic in your universe? It doesn't have to look like logic in mine. Just tell me what the logic is in your universe. But then once you kind of lay out what logic is in your universe, don't break your logic. Okay, Superman can fly. Fine. Superman can fly. But you set up in your universe that he can die from kryptonite. Okay, then don't have a scene where he gets stabbed in the heart by a kryptonite dagger and lives. That's a hyperbole I'm using as an example, right. But you get my point. I just don't think people want to go back. Look, I can watch the Adam West Batman with great joy. and great warmth of heart. But nobody wants that in Batman anymore.
I agree.
That day is come and gone. Nobody wants the Superman, golly, ma'am, I'll get the cat out of your tree. Those
Bam,
days,
pow.
yeah, and they may come back. Those days may come back. But they're not today. I just don't think it works today. And by the way, I've always said I don't think Robin should be in a Batman film today because that makes Batman a child abuser. Dragging a 12-year-old...
Like Ace and Gary?
Well, it's dragging a 12-year-old kid into a gunfight with mobsters. Yeah, you're an asshole. You're an idiot and you're a child abuser. But if you want to break the traditional Robin mold and say Robin is an 18-year-old kid, not a child, and it's you want to make some change to that. There are ways to do Robin and to do him well. There are ways to do Robin well. You just got to be okay with the fact that you're going to break with traditional comic book stuff, like this Damian Wayne thing where I'm an 11-year-old child and I was trained by assassin. You're still a fucking 11-year-old child. Sit down and shut up. But you want to bring in a different kind of Robin, you can make it work.
Yeah.
It just all depends
More
on how
as
you
a
execute it.
protege, an apprentice versus a child that's being raised by a vigilante.
Yeah, I think there's ways to do it. You just have to be comfortable with them not doing it so traditionally. And if you do, I'm totally good with it. We'll see where they go with that. All right, let's see. Patrick Conway writes, how about Steve Carell as Dr. Doom if John is Reed? Of course, he's talking about John...
Goodman.
What's that?
Oh, sorry.
John Krasinski.
Oh,
He's talking about John
sorry.
Krasinski, who we've been talking about maybe being Mr. Fantastic in there. Again, the idea makes me smile, but it would be too weird. With Rainn Wilson playing Dooms, Weasley assistant, I still think Rainn Wilson's got to be Doom. So there, I'll take that. I'll double you down on that. I still think Rainn Wilson should be Dr. Doom. Roman Bryant writes, before Harley Quinn, Joker had Bob. If you're talking about Jax... Bob, I think that was Jack's henchman, right? In the first Batman, I think that was Bob. That would work. I like that character, by the way. John Argote Rodriguez writes, hey, John, have you ever had a show you loved that had a creative change that changed the show? Fear the Walking Dead was once one of my favorite shows, but in season 4, the show got new showrunners and they have destroyed the show. These new showrunners ignored a big cliffhanger in season 3 and a lot of plot lines and brought Morgan from The Walking Dead to replace the lead of the show, and it's become awful. Seasons 1 through 3 are completely different shows from season 4 and 5. I don't care about Walking Dead at all. Like I watched a bunch of the original show Walking Dead right up until about a season and a half ago, I guess. I'm just over it. So I never watched Fear the Walking Dead. I have no interest. But the one big example I can think of a show that totally changed directions, and this might not even be a good example because it happened after the first episode.
Oh.
They did a Constantine show a year ago. Now the Constantine character they took the Constantine character and now he's in Legends of Tomorrow, but they did a Constantine series. It only lasted one season. And I remember they did the pilot, and I thought the pilot was great. And they set up this direction for the show and all this kind of stuff with the pilot. Loved it. Then I watched episode 2, and they completely changed it. And I'm like, what the F happened? You were going this direction with the pilot. And so I guess after pilot season, they did the pilot and they thought, here's our notes. And then they totally changed it for episode 2. Now, I know that doesn't quite kind of fit the question because you're talking about a question that was probably like shows that are several seasons in. But honestly, that really stood out to me, Constantine, because I thought the pilot was great, and then I thought the rest was crap. So anyway, that was me. Can you think of a show that you used to watch that maybe changed directions drastically suddenly?
Nothing's popping in my head, but just to, continue on with what you're saying, that actually happens quite a bit because, when you're shooting a pilot, they have, the budget is oftentimes pretty generous, relatively. And you also, instead of having 8 days to shoot an episode, you have 3 to 4 weeks to shoot an episode.
Right.
And so it was something you would never have normally. Now, granted, a big part of that is because there's a lot of things that are being figured out. It's the reason why for pilots of shows, usually it's very established. Often film directors are brought in to shoot the pilot because they're the ones that are going to choose, okay, as an example, CSI Miami is going to have an orange tone, and CSI Vegas is going to have a green tone, and
Right.
CSI, whatever the other one was, is going to have a blue. New York is going to have a blue tone. So when you watch the show, everything's got that sort of wash of color over it, and there's going to be certain ways that things are lit and certain types of camera movements. Everything is being set in stone, which is also why if you direct the pilot of a television show and you never direct another television show ever, never direct that show ever again, you will get paid residuals for every single episode in perpetuity of the show, which is kind of amazing. But a lot of times then the show gets picked up. Everybody's so excited. Cast changes are made. They decide, oh, we're not going to shoot this in Los Angeles. We're going to shoot it in Vancouver. And Vancouver has a limited crew because everybody's already on other shows. So you're working with maybe tier 2 crew people. The budget maybe gets smaller because a line producer comes in and says, oh, we got to cut this, we got to cut that if we're going to make it work. And if we're going to do 22 episodes, we got to cut this budget down. And more than anything else, instead of having 3 to 4 weeks to shoot one episode and really take your time with it, all of a sudden that's condensed into 8 very, very tight days. So that's not shocking to me at all. But I really hate when a showrunner changes in the middle of a series, because it kind of truncates their ability to see their vision through, which is why I really like the fact that Stephen DeKnight said, no, we're ending Spartacus on this season, because he was he could have easily said, hey, I want more money to line my pockets, but instead he said, nope, this is where the show needs to end. I started it and I'm going to finish it. And he was able to tell a full, well-rounded story and give it the ending that it deserved.
All right, let's try the next one. The next one comes to us from Amir writes. Is that where I'm at? Yes, I'm at Amir. I've been watching Picard, and although, yes, I am enjoying it, I must say this isn't Star Trek. Oh, it absolutely is. It's different. One of the characters this week wasn't even talking as I remember them doing in the normal Star Trek world. It's strange. Enjoyable, but strange. I got to disagree. I mean, it's all about perception. I perceive it one way, you perceive it another. But I'll tell you what, Amir, watching Picard, to me, the thing that got me into it was I instantly felt like I was right back in Star Trek: The Next Generation. It feels very, very Star Trek to me. And I got to completely disagree with you. Again, your perception is no more or less valid than mine. You look at it a certain way, it doesn't feel a certain way. I respect that. But I got to tell you, man, I look at it, and one of the reasons I'm really into the show is because it instantly felt like it transported me. I felt like I watched the final episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation last month. That's what it feels like to me as I'm looking at this. So I really kind of dug it. Slim Trav writes, can you see Tyler Perry directing an MCU film? Hey, listen, I'll tell you what. Working with Kevin Feige can make a director look gold. So why not? I've had a chance to meet Tyler Perry a number of times. I actually really like the dude. I think he's great. I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of his movies, I admit. But if he was working with Kevin Feige, I see potential there. Jack Dries writes, Parasite just released in IMAX. Might have to give it a go. Dude, absolutely, 1,000% give it a go. I know you were a big fan of Parasite, right? Fan. Mm-hmm. Oh, God, I love that movie. So absolutely give it a go, especially if it's in IMAX.
I actually saw Parasite on a screener, so I would like to go see it on a big screen, especially if it's in IMAX. That'd be really cool. I would go see that again.
Oh, yeah, I would absolutely go. Absolutely go. And yeah, 100%. Okay. Haas Fam TV writes, thoughts on POTUS talking crap about Parasite wins. Not going to get into it.
That's probably a good move,
John. You guys can probably know I've got my thoughts on that, but I'm not going to do it. We talk movies here. We don't talk politics or politicians. Carlos Sosa thinks, hey, John, I think Kennedy wanted the scripts written over to add Obi-Wan kissing Vader scene. She's a joke. That's an idiotic comment. I'm not even going to address that. Let's see. Han should have stayed dead. That's a great name. Just tip to support the show. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Avi Callie writes in, I grew up watching Batman Beyond. I feel that WB is sitting on a gold mine here to bring this character to life in cinema. So many rich characters and storylines. I disagree. I mean, but you're not alone, Av Callie. You are not alone in that. I personally know some people that would really love to see Batman Beyond. I don't think the general movie-going audience cares about Batman Beyond. I think there's a reason the show never lasted. But that's me. That's just me. If I had my buddy Thomas on here, I got a friend Thomas who loves Batman Beyond. like loves Batman Beyond and can totally make an argument for it. I just don't think I don't think it would do well. I really don't. I think if it would do well, it would be doing well. And I don't know. So but that's just me. A lot of people get mad at me when I say that, but it's just my subjective opinion on it. I don't care about Batman Beyond. I don't think many people do. But man, there are some hardcore fans of that show, Av. And so I think you would find a lot of people that would agree with you on that, even if I don't. All right. Jonathan Atta writes, fun question for Friday. Star Wars takes place long ago in a galaxy far away, but do you think it would be fun to see a Star Wars movie take place in the present? Nope. Whenever in the Star Wars timeline that may be in a galaxy nearby, imagine a Jedi Master telling a story to Padawans or a Sith Master passing on his knowledge to a young apprentice, and the movie follows a storytelling narration style similar to what we've seen in films like the classic The Princess Bride. Cheers. No. Actually, that's a question that's come up a lot over the years, Aaron, is... oh, maybe they come to Earth. Let me give you an example. Not the Ronald D. Moore Battlestar Galactica, but there was the original Battlestar Galactica, and it was
Tom's a
great.
big fan.
What is he?
Oh my
I
God.
love the original Battlestar Galactica.
All he talks about, Battlestar Galactica.
And Ronald D. Moore's updated Battlestar Galactica is actually my favorite television show of all time. And so the original Battlestar Galactica with Lauren Green, Dirk Benedict, that Richard Hatch, I love that show. Then they got to Earth, and it became so stupid. I mean, it was unwatchable. Most people don't even know that season exists. Most people don't realize that. I think it was called Battlestar Galactica 1988 or something. I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was so bad and so dumb. No, Star Wars, by the way, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away is not meant to be taken literally. It's just basically an opening Star Wars to say, this is somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. It's not meant to, long time ago. Maybe it was in the 1960s. No.
Right.
Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away means imaginary land. It means somewhere else. It means outside of our world. So I don't know. Could you ever see them doing Star Wars in like real life or real world today?
The reason why it wouldn't work on so many levels is very basic. Nobody wants to see real life. We see it every day. We live it. And the reason why people are drawn to comic book movies or to the Star Wars world is because it is an escape from reality. We get to see our heroes and our anti-heroes in situations that are sort of similar to what we're in, but there is a fantastical element to it that allows us to escape whatever we're dealing with in our real life and go into this other world. I mean, what I've loved about watching The Mandalorian is discovering all of these weird characters and these new aliens and these different places. I like being able to watch that and just sort of escape for a minute and join a fantasy world. So I don't see why we would even want it to be here on Earth. We have plenty of shows that are on Earth.
All right. D308X writes, finally, after 19 years, sat down and watched Star Wars. Was planning on watching one movie 3 days later. Let me try this again. After 19 years, sat down and watched Star Wars. Was planning on watching one movie 3 days later, finished all except Solo and Episode 9, and also The Mandalorian, and just bought the new game. I guess I'm a fan now. That's awesome when you can get plugged into something new like that. And by the way, you're going to like Fallen Order. You're going to like Jedi Fallen Order. You're going to get a big kick out of that. And that is awesome, man. That is great. It's always good to see new Star Wars fans coming into the fold. Well done, D3.
You know what Tom told me about recently?
What's that?
Apparently, there was a 24-hour Star Wars festival where you can pay for one ticket and they show every single Star Wars film.
Really?
Back to back, I believe in the order of release.
Which is the right way to do it.
Right. And they and it was a 24-hour festival, and he asked me if I would go, and I said, I will totally go to that 100%. And we had missed it. So he goes, it was last month, apparently. So I don't know when that happened, but Tom is on the case. So when it happens again, that's when I'm going to do it. Because I said to him, I would rather watch it all on a big screen anyway, in my pajamas, which is how I would go if I'm going to sit there for 24 hours.
All right, last question we'll do here with Erin because it's 10:30 and she's got things she's got to do. Hideaway Killer writes, the difference in game movies to comic book is the fact that they never follow the actual game story. That's not really true. They always change so much that made two games good. For example, Doom. They stayed away from the hellish aspects that made the game good. Here's the problem. It doesn't matter what story you follow. If you don't execute, it's going to be terrible. If you do execute, it's going to be great. So and by the way, there've been a lot of video games. One of the biggest criticisms of a lot of the video game movies has been they didn't adapt enough, that they tried to be too much like the video game and that. So it's all about execution. It's all about execution. So I don't know that I agree with that, but you never know. I'm sure there have been video game movies that have just strayed so far away from the spirit of the game that it's, why did you even bother calling it that? I think that's probably happened, Highway Killer. If that's what you're referring to, I think you're probably onto something there. All right, listen, guys, we need to let Erin take off here because she's got little Joey Bishop and she's got things she needs to do today. So, Erin, thank you so much for being here on this Friday. And Joey, thank you for being here.
Look at her face. She's all like,
you just woke her up. I've got this. You got to understand, guys. I've got this super like Sealy memory foam dog bed that I bring up for Joey to lay in when she's. Look how she's so happy.
she's like in a coma right now. She's like, "Why did you take me out of that bed?" No, I wish I could sleep in that bed. That thing looks comfortable.
So cozy. Anyway, Erin, in the meantime, where can people find you in your adventures online?
Oh, you can find me at Erin L. Cummings. You can find Joey and her siblings at Rat Pack Cats. And if anyone is going to be at the Mammoth Film Festival next weekend, I will be there supporting my husband's film, along what is written, produced, and starring Lucifer's Leslie Ann Brandt and Kevin Alejandro, and it is in competition. It's called Adult Night. So that's where we'll be next weekend. If you're in Mammoth, let me know.
All right. Is that already done post?
Oh, it's done everything. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Come to Mammoth. We're going to be screening, or it's going to be screening at the festival Monday, March 2nd.
I've never even been to Mammoth.
I haven't either. And that's one of the reasons why we're going is I said, you know what? Neither of us have been to Mammoth. We're going to drive up there. I got us a sweet little cabin with a fireplace.
Very nice.
So we may see the festival. We may just stay in the cabin the whole time. I don't know. So, but that's where we'll be. So hit me up on Twitter at Erin L. Cummings and let me know if you'll be there.
All right. And maybe I'll see you tomorrow night.
I would love that.
I'm going to talk to Ann.
Please.
Of course, the big fights are tomorrow. Thanks a lot, Erin. All right, guys. We still have a few minutes left here, so I think we can get through all the questions today. So let's keep on motoring here. Next one comes up from Felipe, the microphone, who writes, "Hey, John, is there any validity to the reports about Taron Egerton starring as Seymour in a Little Shop of Horrors remake? I'm open to the idea of a remake, but no one can top the swagger of Steve Martin except maybe Mick Jagger." Oh, I mean, I don't know. I'll tell you what. I don't know that I've heard those reports, but I have no idea if there's actually any validity to them or not. Taron Egerton is a guy I could see fitting into that. I mean, look, I don't like the X actor in X role kind of questions and stuff, but I mean, he is a great actor, and I could see somebody of his type fitting in very well to something like that. So look, I have no idea if there's any validity to it. All I'm saying is that if they announce tomorrow that he was in it, I would say, man, that's pretty inspired casting. So a lot of other names that would also be that, but his would be a good one as well. All right, Morris Codes writes, "Don't forget the Transformers, John." I don't know what it is we're talking about. Sorry, I never forget Transformers. An anonymous viewer writes, "Conversely, Tomb Raider followed the new game very closely, minus the supernatural aspects, so it did better. Assassin's Creed game problem. It's same problem. It's almost like Hollywood is scared of showing magic and satin or supernatural things in video game movies." I mean, that's the other thing. Like, I liked the new Tomb Raider. I did, but it wasn't great. It wasn't great, but it was pretty decent. I had a decent time with it, and I do hope the sequel gets made. Assassin's Creed, I mean, they follow a lot of aspects of the game, but then didn't some... I don't... Listen, Hollywood is clearly not afraid of doing supernatural stuff. That's obvious. I mean, they clearly do. They love doing that sort of stuff. So I'm not quite sure what the overriding hump over the road to get there on that is, but it's interesting. All right, 50 Shades writes, 50 Shades writes, Sonic and Detective Pikachu weren't what I wanted them to be, but at least we got a live-action Sonic movie and live-action Pokemon movie. That, to me, is a huge triumph. All we can do now is hope the next ones, if they will ever happen, will be better. I mean, that's always the hope of every movie, though, right? Like, when a movie comes out, whether we do like it or don't like it, we hope that if they do another one, they build on the strengths of it and minimize the weaknesses and make the next one even better. Like, that's what we always hope for. And yeah, if they do another Detective Pikachu, if they do another Sonic, here's hoping that they take what they did right and build on that and make it even better. So that's always the hope. So we can just keep our fingers crossed for that. All right. Man of Many 44 writes, once studios respect the source material and learn how to adapt, we'll get better movies. Comic book movies went through the same thing initially. It's not a matter of respecting the source material. You remember, a lot of the video game movies had the video game developers were very, very involved in that. I don't, because here's the thing. A lot of people think just make a movie version exactly like the video game is. That doesn't work. I don't think that works. It doesn't work in comic book movies either. Because you go, look, I bring this up all the time. Comic book movies are very unlike their actual comic book counterparts. Captain America, Civil War. It's nothing like Civil War, the comic book story. There's a few thematic similarities, but it's a completely different thing. X-Men Days of Future Past. There's some thematic similarities, but it's a very different story than the comic book version of X-Men Days of Future Past. So I find when people say things like that, Man of Many, like, respect the material. Well, what do you mean respect the material? Like, did Civil War respect the material? You can make an argument they didn't. Did Days of Future Past respect the source material? You can make an argument that they didn't. There's certainly no Deadpool story in the comics that are like the Deadpool movie. Did Deadpool respect the source material? I mean, that's the thing. So I often want to ask people, like when they say respect the source material, what would they need to do that in your estimation means they're respecting the source material? Does respecting the source material mean you have to do exactly what they did in the comic book or in the game? Well, if that's the case, then Deadpool didn't respect the source material. Civil War didn't respect the source material. Days of Future Past didn't respect the source material. Logan didn't respect the source material. But these are fantastic movies. And of course they respected the source material. They just did it in a certain way in the way they executed it. So I think it's a really interesting discussion. Like, what do we mean? When somebody says respect the source material, what is it you're saying they should do? And I think that's a really good question. I think that is a really good discussion to be had. Anyway, thanks for bringing that up, Manny. All right. Or Man of Manny, I should say. John Keeley writes, John, the Batman movie is being filmed this weekend at Glasgow, Scotland. I heard reports that they were doing some shoots in Scotland. They were going to do a couple of days there. I heard that as well. Donnie Yasu writes, now that BoJack Horseman is over, have you changed your mind on giving it a watch? Oh, I've never said I wouldn't give it a watch. Like, I've got my friend Kaori who's been telling me for a long time that this show is great and I really need to watch it. And a lot of people have. I just don't know when I'm going to have a chance. I mean, that's the honest truth. I just don't. I am interested in watching it. I'm interested in watching it. I just flatly don't know when I'm going to get a chance, because I don't have a lot of opportunity to watch TV as it is, and there's a lot of shows already queued up that I need to watch because people are telling me I have to watch them. So I am interested in BoJack. I probably will at some point get around to it because I've heard so many people say such good things about it. I just don't know yet when I'm going to get a chance to do it. That's the thing for that. But yeah, Donnie, you're not alone in telling me that I need to check it out. All right. Artur writes, hey, John, today is my 30th birthday. Happy birthday, man. I hope you have a great one. And I have been keeping track of what I watched since I was 17. 3,046 films, 1,203 films rewatched, $172 TV shows. I don't know what that means. While working/studying, how many did you see if you had to take a guess? Love the show. Pisces are the best. I am a Pisces. I couldn't even begin to guess. I couldn't even begin to guess. I mean, I could throw out a number, but I would just be pulling the number out of my ass. So I don't know, 50,000. I don't know. I just don't know. Yeah, good question, but I've never even begun. I think that's wild that you've kept track of all that. But I I never have, and I've never come close. And I couldn't even begin to venture a guess, though. I couldn't even begin to venture a guess. But that's kind of cool that you got that number. Well, and again, Artur, happy birthday, man. I hope you have a great day and a great year ahead of you, my friend. All right, Dylan writes, you made up the rumor that John Goodman is the new Daredevil yesterday as a joke, but it got me thinking. He would make a badass Kingpin. Oh, hell yes, he would. I mean, it would have to be a specific take. You'd have to do a very specific take and have a very clear vision about what that Kingpin would be. Like, for instance, the Kingpin that we had in the Daredevil Netflix series, John Goodman, probably not a good fit for that. The Kingpin we had in Ben Affleck's Daredevil that Michael Clark Duncan played. By the way, I loved Michael Clark Duncan in that. Probably John Goodman, not a good fit for that iteration of it. But if you had a very specific iteration of Kingpin, you're right. I think John Goodman and Dylan would make a pretty good one of that. All right. Tony Curran writes, hey, John, greetings from Liverpool. Greetings, Tony. I also don't know if I buy that they are casting for Robin. I will say, though, that Fast 6 was partly shot in Liverpool. Very cool. Doubling for London and New York in Fantastic Beasts, Captain America. So you never know. Oh, you absolutely, listen, that is the underlying truth of everything, though, right, Tony? It's you never know. You never know. Like, I've seen nothing on the location stuff that they are planning on shooting anything in Liverpool for Batman, but that doesn't mean it's absolutely not going to happen. So, listen, let's be honest here. There is no reason to believe that that thing has anything to do with Batman, other than the fact that they're saying they're looking for circus performers. Is Batman the only property in history that could do circus? But that's the only reason. If it wasn't saying circus performance, nobody would think for a second that this was the Batman film. But it is circus, so you never know. There's possibilities there. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. Jeremy Tashabu writes, Soups, nah, Batman, nope. Kite Man, hell yeah. Listen, the Kite Man character is so great. Listen, if you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. There's no box there. That is one of the funniest moments, and I think most people miss that. There's no box there. You have to have seen Harley Quinn to know what we're talking about. But Harley Quinn, the TV animated series, not the movie. Kite Man, that moment was one of the... I've laughed harder at that moment than almost any other moment in television this year. That, to me, that was freaking hilarious. Kite Man is I thought it was going to be just this quick little throwaway character. I love Kite Man. I am thinking about getting a Kite Man costume for Halloween this year. I'm serious. I'm thinking about getting together a Kite Man costume for Halloween this year. Hell yeah. Anyway, so let's move on. Jonathan Atta, and this is our final question today. Jonathan Atta writes, in reference to my Star Wars question, I meant present time within the Star Wars universe whenever or wherever that is not... Whenever or wherever, that is not at all here or near our reality. Apologies for confusion. That was just having fun with the question. But I mean, if there is, here's my question though, Jonathan. If it's our time, does that have any reference or any relevance if we don't know it in relation to our place? You know what I mean? So if there's no, follow me here. If there is no reference to our world, does time, as in what time era does it take place in, have any relevance or meaning, right? So you could say that this movie happens now, but what does now mean if we don't have a reference to our world? Now really becomes a meaningless concept. Versus a billion years ago. It kind of becomes a meaningless concept. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I don't know if you can separate the long time ago from far, far away, because unless they're both present, then one has no point of reference for the other. Does that make sense? I don't know if it does or not. Anyway, interesting question. Anyway, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, guys, on this Friday. May you have an absolute triumphant weekend filled with glorious relaxation and fun laid out in front of you. I'm going to watch some UFC this weekend, maybe watch that Tyson Wilder fight. I'm not a huge boxing fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I like the good, odd, now and again, big, high-profile fight, and that fight looks pretty good. But anyway, I hope you guys have whatever it is you consider fun, that you got a whole bunch of that lined up for yourself this weekend, and may we all return for another week of triumph and victory next week, guys. Thanks to Aaron Cummings for being here. Special thank you to all of you guys who sent in questions, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while you're doing it. And all of us here on the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you for that. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today's show. Thanks so much for being here. My name, of course, is John Campea. And until next time, bye-bye.